Good Wednesday evening, everybody, on this July the 14th in the year 2021. When my Aunt Mary Sellers died, my Granny Bradshaw was maybe in her early 60s. And she lived in a little three-room house, side of a duplex of a house on Gaskell Street in Cabbagetown. and for about 3 weeks after Mary had passed, Granny would, every afternoon about 5 o'clock, sometime in that afternoon, she would talk for a few minutes to her daughter Mary. And, you know, she would talk out loud. She would be like, there's my sweet baby. Mama's glad to see you. And so she would tell people that every afternoon at a certain time that Mary would come and sit on the foot of her bed. And she said she's just as plain as I can see. She sits here, and Granny would talk to her. Anytime we have other experiences that people don't understand, they just chalk it up as people's lost their mind, people's crazy, people's, slipping, all like that. But it's been my experience, there's layers and layers of spirituality in all kind of areas. And it's got not much to do with whether you go to church or born again or believe in God or don't believe in God. It don't have no effect. No, it's all spirit. And I say that because in this case, I went and one afternoon when this was going on, I sat in Granny's rocker by her bed and I asked her, I said, Granny, does Mary really come every afternoon? She said, Eddie, I'm not going to tell you no lie. My baby comes and sits on my bed every afternoon, and I talk to her. And maybe she was broken. Maybe, the thing about it is, my Aunt Mary was considered the most holy of the holies in our family. She was the one that led people to Christ. She was the one that walked with Christ. She was the one that everybody said, get Mary to pray for you. She had this... She got sick and she died in her late 40s. And I think she might not would admit to it, but I think that kind of stuff maybe shook Granny's faith, So anyhow, after about 3 weeks, it quit happening, and Granny eventually said she quit coming and she never appeared again. But Granny swears up and down in those 2 or 3 weeks after her passing that her daughter Mary would come and sit on the foot of her bed. If that should happen to one of my children, I would be so blessed and honored if one of them would come back and sit on the foot of my bed. I say all this to get to this point right here. I've had other worldly things to happen. And I love it. I love it when it happens. I like it when I'm totally blown away or just kind of freaked out a little bit like, whoa, I like it when I know that there's something more than just what is common going on. So back in 2015, out of the blue one day at work, I had Hewlett Packard, a representative, call me and said, Mr. Sellers, we're very interested in flying you to Barcelona. And We'll pick up the expenses, do everything. And I thought it was a cold call, so I hung up. I'm like, as a business owner, you get those kind of things all the time. I just hung up. Well, a couple of days later, I was at work. I see it coming up, Hewlett Packard, their 800 number or whatever, out-of-state number. Asked to speak to Mr. Yes, but yeah. Would you just let us explain? We're developing a new prototype of a machine that will be sold across the world to blueprint shops. We're well aware of your long history in the blueprint business. We'd like for you to come to Barcelona. Our research and development department, which was huge and beautiful. It's like going into NASA. About 20 miles outside Barcelona. We'll put you up. We'll do all your itinerary, send you all the information. I said, I'm not interested. I said, and furthermore, don't call me no more. I had no interest in it. And then about a week later, they called me and they said, this is our final time we're going to call you. The window's closing on this, but we'd really like to fly you to Barcelona, and you can bring anybody you want to with you. And I don't even know. I didn't even really think about it. I just said, okay, email me the stuff, and I'll be on the flight, and I'll come. And they're like, would you like to? They had they took my information, my date of birth, and all this other kind of stuff. Told me to make sure I had my passport before they do this. I said yes. So I decided in that moment I didn't want to take, I could have took Jill with me. I could have took Heather with me. I could have took Ava with me. I could have used it as a trip to get away. For whatever reason, I was thinking I've never went anywhere by myself. I want to go alone. And in that moment, that's what I decided to do. I have a friend of mine, Alvin, who travels the world alone. He said, if you ever do it, you'll love it. Didn't love it. I'd rather be with somebody. I feel safer. But anyhow, they sent me the tickets and the flight information. I flew out on a Saturday or whatever, went to Barcelona. Barcelona is beautiful. It's as pretty in many ways as Paris or Madrid or London. Just a beautiful city. I loved it. They put me up in the hotel, the same hotel. It was a 5-star hotel where the Woody Allen movie, Vicky Barbarina something, Vicky something. They filmed a scene of that movie in the lobby of that hotel by a grand piano, whatever. I mean, beautiful, beautiful hotel. I remember I got there and I went into the hotel lobby, lounge, whatever, and I ordered a cheeseburger that had an egg on it that was like $41 for just a cheeseburger and a glass of water. I'm like, my goodness, I'm highfalutin over here. I go up to the 3rd floor where my bedroom is, beautiful bedroom. Well, there's a guy that's sitting in a chair outside in the hallway, outside my bedroom, introduces himself to me. I'd never seen a hotel like this. I'd never had this happen to me before. He said he was a personal concierge that will be sitting out in the hallway should I need anything. I'm like, oh, that's wild. Pick me up at the airport in a black Mercedes. Anyhow, it was surreal in a lot of ways. The next day or two, I went to the research and development department in outside of Barcelona and seen the machine and spent the day out there. Came back, the trip's done. I had a day or two they provided for leisure and took me out to a 7-course meal dinner. I'd never had a 7-course meal dinner. And so anyway, on the flight back, I had to fly from Barcelona to London, and it's about a 2.5-hour flight from Barcelona. I go in, sit down, and I'm sitting there, and I'm on the outside seat, and the inside seat, a lady comes in, sits down beside me. She's got a baby with her. He's maybe a year old, maybe not old enough to walk, but maybe he didn't have a bottle. He was an Asian baby. She was a white lady from England, I come to find out. So anyhow, they sit down beside me, and as we're getting ready to take off, this little fella, this little boy, he is, you hear all these horror stories about children on planes. He's not making no loud sounds, nothing. He keeps reaching for me and just trying to crawl away from her. Keeps reaching for me. And after about 10 minutes, I'm looking at the little fella, and it's kind of making me uncomfortable because I'm just supposed to, I don't know the etiquette with that. I'm a 62-year-old man at that time. This is a little 1-year-old baby boy. He's determined to get in my lap. And, so I don't want to be this creepy old man that's trying to get babies. And, people's funny about their children, as they should be. So it got so uncomfortable with the child struggling so hard to get to me. I finally spoke to the lady and I said, ma'am, I I don't want to be inappropriate, but I would be okay if the child wanted to sit in my lap. And she said, "Oh, I just thank you so much. I'm just..." Well, come to find out, I don't know how they got to that flight, but they was on a journey back to their home in England. She had been to China, and she had adopted this little boy. His eyes looked at me like he wanted me so bad. So before the plane even took out, she let him come to me, and he crawled up on me, put his head on my shoulder, and I could feel his little hands just holding me so tight. Holding me so tight. And I didn't really want to talk to him too much. I said, "Hey, little buddy, you okay? We're gonna get to England. You're okay." And this little boy would look up at me, and I'm telling you, the reason I told you about my Granny Bratcher and her talking to her daughter Mary, and her feeling like Mary came to sit on the foot of her bed every night. There was something that happened in those 2.5 hours between me and this little child that made me know then why I was pressured so bad to go to Barcelona, and not only go to Barcelona, but go alone, and to wind up sitting in that seat alone. There was something that I believed, I just believed it so strongly, that God, the universe, the forces, that powers that be, whatever, the creators, the I ams, the Buddhists, the Hindus, the energies of the world, they put me there in that moment for that child. That's how special this little child was. The world circled around him. And as I held him for those 2.5 hours, I loved that baby as much as I've ever loved any of my own children. And I started, I guess, telepathically communicating with him. I was telling him how proud I was of him, how much I loved him. And then I began to speak blessings into him, telling him what a wonderful life he's going to have and what a difference he's going to make on the earth. And while I'm talking to him, I had something else strange that was verifying all this that was going on. I happened to look over into the other aisle, and there was a dad sitting there and looked like a newborn baby that had that little baby blanket around him. And I noticed as I'm just sitting there talking to this child in spirit, because nothing was said out loud, I just happened to look out of the corner of my eye, and this baby that was maybe 3 months old, 4 months old, laying in his dad's lap, with his face looking back at Dad, was staring at us like he was taking in everything that I was saying and what this little boy was saying to me. And when I happened to look over at him, he just grinned, this real big grin that sent chills down me like, we're all in this. We're all in this. Me too. My entry is here. His entry is here. And so I know, like some people would say, well, Granny was slipping, Granny was kooky or whatever on the foot of her bed about Corinne. I'm telling y'all, there was a reason I had to go to Barcelona. I knew it on that plane trip. And the reason was the forces of the universe needed me to be sitting in that particular seat to hold a little boy from China and to speak wellness all around him and to make him feel safe. If I never in all my lifetime ever made anybody else feel completely safe, I did in that one flight. That little boy's body relaxed, and it was like he was in heaven with his little arms all hugged against me. So anyway, that's my story for Wednesday evening. Love y'all. Be well. Be blessed. Be well. Be blessed. Have a clean heart. Have a good spirit. Enjoy tomorrow, tonight, the next day. We're only here for a short time. Enjoy it. God bless.